Well, the World Health Organization's pandemic treaty seems to be failing, but we may have it rearing its head in a new form. Now, the pandemic treaty is an obvious grab to supersede national sovereignty. I think I've done a pretty good job at proving that to you. If you don't agree, just look up pandemic treaty or WHO on any of our channels, Rumble, YouTube, wherever, and we go through the documents so that you can see for yourself that the World Health Organization wants to take away freedom from all member states and instate their own rules and laws. And why this is scary is not just because then they could do things like vaccine passports or mandatory lockdowns or what have you, global surveillance, but also because if our nation signs away sovereignty through a treaty for health reasons, they can do it for any reason. So I'm going to go through this. Now, again, the treaty would allow the WHO to control vaccines, survey populations, mandate lockdowns, control food supply, all supply chains for anything, even like your moisturizer or whatever they can declare is at risk because of the way that it's manufactured and you can't get it anymore. They think that anything that they can declare a pandemic risk would be their problem. Also, they would also control what they call infodemics, which they define as too much information, even true. This is from a 2023 document called Preparedness and Resilience for Emerging Threats. You see here that they say an infodemic can be a health threat because it's the overabundance of information, accurate or not, which makes it difficult to get individuals to adopt behaviors that they want you to adopt. This is crazy town, meaning if you don't, it's information that would stop you from doing what they want you to do, even if it's true information. The fact that they wrote this down is crazy town. So we told you last month that the House of Representatives had passed this bill. It's the No WHO Pandemic Preparedness Treaty Without Senate Approval Act, which would require a supermajority vote in the Senate before the president can hand this power over to the WHO. This is currently being read in the Senate. If this does not pass, it will be up to the next president, based on their own whim, to decide whether we sign the pandemic treaty with the WHO or not. I'm fairly certain that Kamala Harris would sign it. I'm fairly certain Donald Trump would not. If anyone wants to disagree with me, you're free to do so. Now, one of the things that Representative Thomas Massie points out is that this treaty could open the way for other global treaties that would remove the U.S. power to make any decisions for his people. That includes going to war, stipulations about global trade. I'm going to let him explain, because this is terrifying, this idea of international treaties taking away our global sovereignty. Watch.
You know, the bulk of my speech in support of my amendment actually doesn't come from me. It's going to come from Alexander Hamilton, who described in Federalist 75 the treaty-making powers of the executive. He states, its objects are contracts with foreign nations, which have the force of law, but derive it from the obligations of good faith. And this is the most important part. They are not rules prescribed by the sovereign to the subject, but agreements between sovereign and sovereign. The power in question seems therefore to form a distinct department and to belong properly neither to the legislative nor the executive. The qualities elsewhere detailed as indispensable in the management of foreign negotiations point out the executive as the most fit agent in those transactions, while the vast importance of the trust and the operation of treaties as laws plead strongly for the participation of the whole or a portion of the legislative body in the office of making them. So what's he saying here? He's saying you can't make laws, domestic laws, using a treaty. Treaties can't bind the United States to declare war. Treaties can't raise taxes. Treaties can't create new laws for us. And the United States should not take part in international institutions that erode our sovereignty. Congress should not legitimize blatantly unconstitutional notions that agreements that come out of these institutions supersede the Constitution of the United States. So let me just close by saying this. Do we believe that the Senate itself and the president, without consulting the House, could implement a vaccine mandate by merely calling it a treaty and finding another sovereign party to enter into with? I do not. Do we believe that they could implement or impose social distancing on U.S. citizens by calling it a treaty and finding another sovereign to enter into an agreement with? I do not. They have to come to the House. Let's take the example of gun control. Do we think they could impose gun control on U.S. citizens in a treaty? By the way, this is not a hypothetical. In a treaty with the United Nations and some other sovereign countries, merely with the advice and consent of the Senate. That would take 2/3 or 67 votes in the Senate, but it would completely leave out the House of Representatives. No, they cannot do that. That is outside of our Constitution. We are guaranteed a Republican form of government with a legislature that makes the laws that bear on citizens. So I'll close with this most important part of my amendment, which says, if any provisions of a treaty are to have legal bearing on United States citizens, those provisions must pass both the House of Representatives and the Senate and be presented to the president, as all federal laws must.
That guy don't play. Okay, yes, we should not have these treaties, international treaties that supersede our laws unless lawmakers that we elect, Congress, sign off on this. Okay, so think about this, though, because if this does not pass, if we do not give this our attention, then that means that globalist organizations can come in and supersede U.S. laws. I wrote out after this speech some of the ways that this could happen. Could NATO treaties supersede gun control? That's one of the things he said. Could IMF treaties supersede our monetary policy and instate a globalist currency? Yes, they could. Could the WEF supersede environmental and global business laws? Could the United Nations force us to go to war? So that's the problem with these international treaties and agreements, is that they overstep laws that we are supposed to have that guarantee us certain freedoms, and freedoms from things like war and global currencies and vaccine mandates and vaccine passports. Well, now, since the WHO may not be given this power, not because the United States is leading the opposition or the United Kingdom. No, both of those countries seem to be bending over. But other countries such as Turkey and Japan, Australia are opposing it. Thank God for the rest of us. But instead, now the U.S. is looking for a smaller version of this that's North American. They're calling it NAPAHPI. So you can read about it here and exactly what it is.
That?
I know. It's awful, and I want to.
Well, they don't want us to be able to pronounce it.
Well, not just that. So take a look at. I wrote it out because it's confusing, because it's an extension of an Obama era program called NAPAPI. So the Obama regulation was the North American Plan for Animal and Pandemic Influenza. The new version, the extension, is North American Preparedness for Animal and Human Pandemics Initiative. So can you see what they did here? If you look at it, the Obama era initiative was for a pandemic flu, and they turned it into an initiative that doesn't actually require a pandemic. It's to prepare for a pandemic. So that preparedness word and the idea that now it's animal and human gives them more control, because they can change anything to show that it's a threat for a pandemic, even the food supply, or I'm going to say especially the food supply. Now, this is a joint initiative between the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, in collaboration with the Department of State and the Agriculture and Homeland Security and their respective counterparts in Mexico and Canada. It has the hallmarks of the WHO plan. Here's what they say it will do. They'll initiate a senior coordinating body who we absolutely should want to know as key decision-making forum. And see here where it says border health measures. What do you think that means? That, to me, and the Children's Defense Fund also thinks that this means vaccine passports. Because how else are you going to cross borders without border health measures? Risk communications, that sounds a whole lot to me like infodemic. That means you can't see things they don't want. You can't communicate about things. You can't do social media. You can't read about things that they don't like, because they're going to control communications. Also, what the hell is sustainable financing? Not sure. I don't think it has to do with national debt. They don't give a shit about that. Sustainability is a way that they usually use to say, well, this animal farming or this chicken farming or this egg farm is a risk for, these kind of diseases. So you can't have these types of animal-based foods. Also, who will be doing these assessments? Is it the same people who assessed the COVID-19 pandemic? Because they should not be rewarded. They did a shit job. And notice that it says that the COVID pandemic, quote, showed us about the challenges of international cooperation. Only that's a lie. The COVID pandemic showed us exactly the opposite. They did not follow the science. They suppressed the science. They cannot say they didn't know better. They did know better. In this piece here, I ran down all the science that the world governments ignored in this segment. Please look it up on the Redacted channel and watch it. I can prove that they did know better and they pretended not to, so they can never say, oh, we just didn't know any better. That makes me crazy bananas when people say that. So again, unless these agencies apologize for ignoring the science, we absolutely should not reward them with more power to do it again. They cannot prepare us for the next pandemic unless they answer for the last one, which they don't seem like they're going to do. So what do we get out of this initiative? It seems like we don't even get a vote. Whereas the WHO, at least that pandemic treaty was subject to a vote. This initiative seems like the government's just going ahead and doing it and extending the 2013 Obama rules. And we'll see, will we get vaccine passports out of this? Will we get national mandates for lockdowns? Will this supersede our sovereignty? Who knows? But we have to watch this. Even though we're all crazy about the election, we need to watch this too. So let me know what you think.
If you suffer from daily pain, I need you to listen to this message very carefully. What we know about pain relief is changing forever. As we age, aches and pains are normal, and we're all searching for effective ways to relieve pain without side effects and addiction. Let's be frank, we've all seen the horrors of the opioid crisis. You may even be affected personally. Your family might know someone that has been affected by this. That's where a pioneering medical scientist comes in, Clint Winters. You may have seen the world-renowned health expert featured in the national media. He's unveiled a natural pain reliever that has taken the world by storm. And I'm talking about Canolidine, the 100% drug-free way to get full-body pain relief without dangerous pills. As you read this right now, Canolidine has become the go-to pain reliever for over 1 million Americans, hundreds of professional athletes. It was even named as the UFC's #1 official pain reliever for the UFC. Right now, you guys can try it. Go to trykano.com/redacted, and you're going to get it for less than $1 per day. You can access the only Canolidine product in the world for less than $1 per day. Clint has provided this special link for you guys. You can guys get this special discount. Just go to trykano.com/redacted. I see a bunch of people in the chat who've already ordered this. Give it a shot. If you suffer from chronic pain, you don't want to have that addiction from drugs, try kano.com/redacted, the 100% drug-free Canolidine. Try it for less than $1 a day.